V was very, very bad. Let's start off with the Riddler's bullshit reason for becoming a bad guy in this. Throughout the series, it's not like been a huge deal on why people become villains in it or whatever. It's not a huge focus. But at least it makes sense. Joker was already a bad guy. He got thrown into chemicals, so his brain gets messed up, and now he's a crazy person. Penguin got abandoned by his family and was forced to fend for himself in the sewers. Catwoman got killed by her boss. Two-Face got scarred while he was in court, and he thought Batman would save him, and he needed someone to blame, so he chose Batman. Most people wouldn't turn to crime, but whatever. That's just, something that's always happened for Two-Face. He turns evil after the accident, so it makes sense. Riddler gets told he can do a project, but not immediately, because it's too dangerous to just jump into, and it causes too many questions, and it could cause people to lose their job. He throws a hissy fit, and he's pissed that his idol, Bruce Wayne, didn't understand, even though he did. He thought it was a fine idea. He just needed to, take some time with it, call his secretary, lean into human trials, but not immediately. And, he's a bad guy now. Jim Carrey was terrible as the Riddler. He was just, he was just Jim Carrey with a Riddler outfit. They also make references to the comics and to the 60s show for some reason. Halfway, when the movie's basically over, Robin, finds some rusted metal and he goes, "Holy rusted metal, Batman. Wow, such a cool reference, not..." And then there's a scene where Robin's trying to figure out what his new name should be. And he goes Batboy, and he goes Nightwing, because, Robin becomes Nightwing after. Val Kilmer also kills someone in this movie. Two-Face, he kills him. Not with, his bare hands or anything, or shooting a gun at him, but he legit throws a bunch of coins up in the air while he's flipping his coin, while Two-Face is on a high platform, causing Two-Face to fall, trying to catch the coin, and he does not save him. Riddler had this whole plan where he was going to drop two people at the same time, and Batman could only save one, right? Well, he saves both of them. Neither of them die. But when Two-Face falls, he does not even attempt to save him. He just stands there. So that's the end of Two-Face. Tommy Lee Jones was decent at times, but most of the time he just felt like Venom. Talking about we and our all the time. Two-Face has always been a character, at first, that Harvey is still there and he's trying to fight for control. He doesn't want to be this bad guy. But in this movie, he's just like Venom. And they're both in control or whatever. And Harvey, I guess, is completely fine with being this psychopath. It's terrible, and he also acts like Joker. And he's just so campy, corny, and cringy. It's just not Two-Face. There was maybe one scene that I thought he was at least close. But, he still has his little Venom thing going, so it kind of sucks. When Riddler breaks into the hideout, and Two-Face is like, "You broke into our hideout, you did this, and I'm gonna kill you if this coin lands right." I actually really liked the way that scene went. It really felt like Two-Face, but besides that, no. He did not feel like Two-Face in literally any other scene. So, that ruins it. Commissioner Gordon is just kind of there in this movie again. Doesn't really do anything. Batman, for some reason, doesn't want Riddler to, say his identity or whatever. Obviously. It's a big deal. It's a secret identity. He doesn't want him to reveal it to the world. But guess what he does seconds before he puts him in Arkham Asylum? He talks about how he's Bruce Wayne and Batman and how they can be two different people. But you don't want him to reveal your identity, right? Because later in the movie, he has Chase go check and see if, he still remembers he's Batman. But he tells him, seconds before, he loses consciousness. Because that makes sense, right? That's the last thing he's going to remember. But yeah, of course, Riddler went crazy and... he thinks he's Batman. This movie just sucked. There's also a security guard in this movie, and his acting was terrible. The movie just wasn't good at all. Chris O'Donnell also plays Robin. And, they referred to him as a kid twice. So, you would think that he was, at least 16, 17. Teenager. He's still not really believable for that. But whatever. But then later in the movie, Val Kilmer calls him a college kid. So, how old is this kid? If he doesn't have anybody. But yeah, whatever. Movie just sucked. Because Riddler was nothing like Riddler. It was just Jim Carrey in a Riddler costume. And Two-Face was trash too. Val Kilmer was not very good as Batman. He literally breaks part of what makes Batman Batman in this movie. Because, the whole killing thing, but that happens in the Michael Keaton movies too. But he gives up being Batman for literally no reason during this movie. Batman would never do that. The man would get his arm broken in 20 places and would still want to fight, no matter how much Alfred tells him not to. So him just giving up for no reason makes no sense. He also was gonna let Robin kill Two-Face just because it's his decision to do it. But at the same time, he's like, well, you're gonna regret it. But he was gonna let him. This man crazy. Oh, and there's also a ridiculous scene when Two-Face and Riddler, how they break into the Wayne Mansion is by pretending to be little kids by putting on this very tiny mask. And that's it. They put on this tiny ass mask. And Alfred's just like, yep, that's them. It barely even covers their faces. Yep, those are just little kids. No, they are not. Chase and Batman's romance was very cringy in this movie, and I did not care for it. This movie just sucked overall. Probably be a while before I watch Batman and Robin. Forgot to mention, there's also not one, but two scenes where Riddler doesn't even have the right hair color. The Riddler is, ginger in this movie. We're introduced to him when he's Edward Nygma, that he's ginger. And we have two scenes where he's not, though. There's the scene when he reveals Edward Tech, where he has brown hair. It's a very brief scene, so you might not even notice it. But then there's like a full few minute scene when he's hosting the party that he finds out Bruce Wayne's identity. He just has his natural hair color, his brown hair. And speaking of Edward Tech, I don't get why nobody questioned on him, why he was able to make this stuff and, stuff like that, because he needed funding from Bruce Wayne. Obviously, the reason was because he was able. Forgot to mention, there's also not one, but two scenes where Riddler doesn't even have the right hair color. The Riddler is, ginger in this movie. We're introduced to him when he's Edward Nygma, that he's ginger. And we have two scenes where he's not, though. There's the scene when he reveals Edward Tech, where he has brown hair. It's a very